Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Bowen. This is the Teen Talks Politics Show, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. Play the intro. Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to another Teen Talks Politics video. I'm Sean Bolton. So, even though the 2026 midterms are probably the thing that most people are worried about right now, it's still clear that the 2028 election season is not too far away. Usually in 2027 or the year before the actual election, many candidates start to announce that they're running. And even some candidates might start announcing after the midterm elections. Now, the Democratic and Republican primaries are like the dynamic is very different on both sides, and I want to show you. So I've got the Real Clear politics polling averages for 2028 for both the Democratic and the presidential primary. So first of all, let's start with the Democratic Party. So currently, the candidate who's in the lead is Kamala Harris, former vice president. Which makes sense. She was the Democratic 2024 nominee, and because she's the former vice president, she does have a lot of name recognition. Now, after her is California Governor Gavin Newsom, who's kind of seen as the candidate who is almost definitely going to run just because he's been making a name for himself. 2025, he was considered probably like the biggest winner of the year in terms of politics. And he definitely is going to be a major contender. He's only around 6 points behind Harris in the polls. And after that, in a distant third, is Pete Buttigieg, the former transportation secretary under the Biden administration. He definitely is going to be a candidate who might run. Then there's AOC. AOC is a candidate who might not, I don't think is going to run, but she could. But I think the reason why has a decent place in the polling is because she's going to win a lot of progressives. And then you've got Shapiro and Kelly in a distant 5th and 6th. And these are just candidates who have a good chance of running, but just don't have the same base appeal that the candidates I've already mentioned. So as we can see, the Democratic primary is going to be, at least right now, it seems to be a race between Harris and Newsom to see who could, because they're the main. It seems like that's going to be where the race is headed. But who knows what could happen? I don't think people are too excited about Harris or Newsom. They're both very establishment candidates, and they're not very likable. So the Democratic Party definitely needs to make some good decisions. And then then we'll move on to the Republican primary. And this is a lot more lopsided for Vice President J.D. Vance. 45%, almost 50% of the vote. 30% lead in the polls. That is, if I'm a Republican, if I'm not J.D. Vance and I'm a Republican who wants to run in 2028, I'd be nervous because that's not a good sign. Now, you could say that that's really just because of Vance being a vice president, but that really shows you, how popular Vance is, at least right now. In the distant second is Trump Jr., which makes sense, being kind of considered the heir to Donald Trump, being his son. He could definitely get a good portion of the MAGA base to support him. Third, we've got Rubio, which makes sense because Rubio is kind of seen as another kind of, Trump has mentioned him as a possible successor, though I do think Rubio has said that he won't run if J.D. Vance runs. And then you've got DeSantis and Kennedy and Haley. So I think that clearly shows, I think, that the race could very well just be a landslide for Vance. I mean, right now I think it's just because Vance has the name recognition. But if he still, this is really good for him, and I think that if he definitely has a good chance of winning. So yeah, those are the two Those are the two parties, or I don't know what I'm saying, but those are the two. That's what's gonna go. What so far is going on in 2028, and right now, Harris versus Vance. I think Vance would win because Harris already lost to Donald Trump, and I think that Harris really just is not a good candidate. Um, and I think Vance would just appeal a lot better to working class voters. I think Newsom would do better than Harris. Um, yeah, I do think it is looking like a Vance. Vance is going to be the nominee in 2028, and the Democratic primary though is a lot closer, and I think that right now at least it's a battle between Newsom and Harris, but I do think other candidates are going to start to shine in the Democratic primary. Candidates like Andy Beshear, Josh Shapiro, Wes Moore, even though he said he won't run. I think that's going to be, those candidates are a lot better than Newsom and Harris, and I think that those candidates would have a much better job against Vance. Now, the Republican primary, maybe Donald Trump Jr. can convince the party base that he is the real heir, but I think that Vance being the vice president just makes it, just completely a slam dunk victory for him. All right, so that's it for me today. I'm going to post some polls about this to see where my viewer base stands on these candidates. All right, bye guys.